I finally have one of the synths I wanted to try ever since it was released, and it's not a software. I'm talking about the Minifreak. I was very curious about this synthesizer, so the first thing I did was to test out the Minifreak V, and I gotta say I wasn't that impressed at first. It had a lot of nice features, like the oscillators and whatever, but compared to other software synthesizers, I didn't understand it too much. But now that I have tried the real thing, it all makes sense. So let me tell you the things I liked about the Minifreak. I will compare it also a little bit with the software version, and hopefully with this video you can decide if you want to buy it. Now I gotta say thank you so much to Arturia because they gave me this Minifreak unit and it was without any strings attached. So I can be completely honest about the things that I will say in this video. They haven't even watched this before it's published. The first thing I liked when I started playing with the hardware was how easy it is to use. I don't know, I find it to be really intuitive. It has some menu diving, but everything is well labeled. So straight away you can start playing with the oscillators, the many effects, and especially the comprehensive mode matrix. Not only that, I like a lot how it links to the software version, and you can do it even within your DAW. So if this is your first hardware synth and you're used to use plugins, it's a good hybrid workflow to get used to it. Not only that, the presets that you make on the hardware can be saved also on the software, so you don't have to worry about the limited amount of presets that you can save on the hardware. And of course you can share all the presets you want with users of the software version. Speaking of presets, I will be uploading all the presets that I made for the Minifreaks to my Patreon and my members pages. Of course, this can be used also on the software version, so consider supporting my channel. This hybrid workflow also makes some things faster, as for instance editing the shape of the LFO shaper. Now, with all of that said, it has so many features that you can make really advanced kind of sounds. But as I said, it's easy to use and it has really nice integration with the software. For me, it's also very good as a beginner synthesizer. And that's another thing I like about the Minifreak. I believe it is one of those synths that beginners and advanced users can use a lot. So if you're a beginner, you can start with the Minifreak and it will stay with you for a long time. And of course, if I'm going to talk about for who the Minifreak is designed for, I cannot leave behind the price. I mean, it's $600, which for all the features you get is really cheap, considering it's not a purely digital synthesizer because the filter is analog. The price itself makes it a great addition for anyone that wants an advanced synthesizer. If you're enjoying this video so far, please give it a like and also subscribe to the channel, that means the world to me. It has many oscillators that produce very unique sounds that on other synthesizers are harder to program. Of course, it has more basic things like the basic shapes or the unison engine. A little bit more complex is the FM oscillator, the harmonic oscillator, which is based on the harmonic series. And my favorites are the more complex like the Car Plus Strong, the modal, which can create very nice plucky sounds. Even the format is something that I quite like. Oh, and of course, thanks to the last update, we also have a wavetable now. Now, speaking of the oscillators, Oscillator 2 can also act like a filter for Oscillator 1. Here we can find digital filters like the Surgeon, or more complex ones like the comb filter, and my favorite, the phaser filter. Now, I gotta say, I like the Destroy. I don't know if it's a wave shaper or decimator or filter, whatever. Maybe you don't like the exploding frog, but the sounds that you can get are really interesting. what's even better is the FM engine when oscillator 1 is the modulator and oscillator 2 is the carrier. So yeah, we have a lot of sounds that used together will lead to many crazy patches. Now about the filter, as I said, the one in the Minifreak is analog. It's the only analog component of the synth and it sounds really good. But of course, as I like to do when I'm testing analog things versus software, I will make a blind test and you have to decide which one is the filter of the hardware and which one is the filter of the software. I want you to decide if the filter feels different from the software than the hardware. I swear I will not forget to give the answer next week, not like the MOOC video, which by the way, I'm going to leave the answer for that one in the comments. Other thing that I love is the mod matrix because it's really simple to use and it lets you modulate virtually anything you want. Thanks to these assign buttons, which are actually 9. As I'm speaking of modulation, there are quite a few things I like to do. For instance, using the cycle envelope as a third LFO and playing around with the release to get a faster or slower plucky sound. Now, of course, it has a mod wheel and a pitch bend, but you can set that also to be macros. Now, the mod wheel is virtually also a macro. But having 2 more is great to transform sounds into something different every time. You can assign up to 4 different parameters. You can assign up to 4 parameters to each macro, which is plenty. Now it also has a nice sequencer. Programming it is very easy and sometimes the touch sensors are maybe a little funky, but it's nothing deal breaker or anything. It has up to 64 steps and you can set the last step to be anything, so you can have a sequence of, I don't know, a random number, 27. But where it really shines is on the arpeggiator, because the arpeggiator has a bunch of extra parameters that makes it really interesting. Repeat and ratchet are really nice for performance because they work as you're pressing them. But then you can activate to change the octave of a key at random. And if you want to transform the arpeggio into something different, you can use the mutate. Every time you press it, you will have a variation of the arpeggio with different notes and whatnot. Now, of course, this has a lot more features, but I don't want this video to be extremely long. So I just wanted to talk about my favorite things. If you're considering to buy it, for me, it's a really good purchase. As I said, because of the price, it's a great entry-level synth. It's really easy to understand, so it's great for beginners too, but it has so many features that are really well implemented, so it's also really great for advanced users. I've been having a lot of fun with it, and every day I just play around with it, make new presets and experiment in new sounds because it has a lot to discover. So of course, besides telling me your thoughts on the blind test, let me know what do you think about the Minifreak, if you have the hardware, if you have played with the software, and your opinion in general. Thank you so much for watching, I will see you next time and bye bye!